Seems like I'm live. Okay, let's share this somewhere. Let's start with Twitter. Okay, bear with me. Okay, so let's get back to it. First of all, again, my name is Paris. I'm one of the co-founders of that company called SourceLair. What we do is an in-browser IDE where you can write code and develop applications, mainly web applications, in your browser without having to download or install anything. So I'm doing these live videos talking about what's the current things that we deal with in SourceLair, what are the current challenges that we have. So the main challenge that I was talking about last week is the need to introduce new project types on SourceLair without making things more complex and all that stuff. So let's make a quick recap. So we are thinking about how projects work. Right now, when you create a new project, what you have to do is choose a project type, which can be Python, can be Django, can be Node.js, can be PHP, static HTML, and generic, which is the rest. So what's the problem with that module is, first of all, not all of these kind of information are on the same level. So we have kind of an issue with the information architecture there. So you can choose either Python or Django, which is kind of weird because Django is part of Python. The next thing is that its different project type implies different things. So for example, if you choose Django, you have port 8000 allocated for you to use, but if you choose Python and then do another sub option, which is Flask, you will have port 5000. Anyway, this is getting pretty much weird. And if you choose generic, where it's a more generic type, you don't have a web server at all, so there are no ports and stuff like that. So this is not communicated well to the users. So what were we thinking? I was talking with my business partner about this after the previous video. So what we thought is that maybe we have to do things simpler, both for the user and for us. So what we thought about happening is, first of all, reducing the required choices that the user has to make. And this is what we're thinking about. When you're gonna be creating a new project from after we push this update, you will have to choose two essential things. First of all, the name of your project, and then the programming language of your project. And after you do these two essential choices, you have some more options, but these are not core options like the previous ones. They're not required. This way they're options. Ta-da! Okay, so after you choose the name of your project and the programming language, you can choose a template for your project, which is kind of different compared to a framework, because a template is just a starting point for your code. So let's say I'm choosing Python with Python 3.6. This is enough to start my project. And after that, I can choose a template. If I don't choose anything, SourceLair is gonna use an empty template for me. But I can use a Django template if I want. I can use a Flask template if I want, or any other template that I want. But this now is not bound to the project type, or I can clone my own repository. So this makes things pretty much more straightforward. So we can say to the user that if you choose Python as a programming language, you get port 8000, for example. And of course, this is not influenced by the template you choose. Okay, and afterwards, another choice that you could make, so we are not settled on this, is that maybe you can choose whether you want a web server or not. Because the way currently works in SourceLair, if you want to work on a command line Python program, it's not, well, you have a web server tab with server logs failing and stuff because you don't have a server running, or anyway, or any configuration for that. So maybe we can make a switch for that to turn that on and off, or detect if you have a proc file or not, and do it that way. So anyway, the way I can think this can work with the current options is, okay, you choose the programming language of your choice, and you choose the version of that programming language. So optionally, the last one. So this can define the Docker image in which your code is going to run. Next, based on the programming language that you choose, you will get a standard port that you will have to use if you want to use a web server. Next, if you chose a template or not, this is going to define how the initial code structure of your project. Or if you choose to clone another project, we are going to clone that URL for you. And project templates can be just Git repositories like when you clone your own. So this is going to make it pretty much easier for us how to start your projects. And the next thing is, after we start your project and we initialize that with your initial code, we can then use the standard package managers for each programming language to install your dependencies, if any. So if after we initialize your Python project, we can run pipenv install or just pip install, it depends. We'll see how we're gonna do that. And then install all the dependencies of your project. And the last step is, if you have configured to have a web server for your project and you want one, and then they're making comments about me, what the hell. Okay, sorry. And then if you have configured a web server for your project, and we find that you have the appropriate configuration files, which at the moment is a proc file, we are gonna start that after we have initially installed all your dependencies. And I think this makes it pretty much easier both for the users to choose what they want, pretty much easier for us to document what's going on, and pretty much easier for us to introduce new versions without thinking about what do we have to communicate now to the users. Yeah, so that was it pretty much. I think we are pretty solid about what's gonna come to the next versions of projects in SourceLair, and I'm not gonna bother you about that in the next videos. I'm gonna talk about new things. So thanks a lot for bearing with me one more time. See you next week. Cheers.